Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. Today, I'm in studio with the lovely Diola and first time on set with Mercy. And of course, I'm Uti. Hi ladies, how are you?
Hello.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
How's the, the week hasn't gone too far, so let me say, how's your week shaping up?
Well, for me, it's looking very great, despite the annoyances, and the unfortunate one is the fact that power supply has been horrible. You know, we've never had this, we've never had it this bad. You know, you literally wake up without power and then you have to provide your own power. That means running your generator from about whatever time to whatever time. It's a lot of pressure on a lot of households these days. It's not interesting, you know what I mean? It's not interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, the power issue that you talk about, we were having the conversation around the new tariff on electricity, and I think that's at the top burner of everybody's mind. People want to know what tariff band they're in, and then, you know, the part that really caught me was the 20 hours. And I said, that's so enthusiastic. Or I don't even know what to qualify it as, if it's enthusiasm, if it's, were you thinking, like I don't even know what to call it, wishful thinking. Because I'm like, it's okay, you know, as a disco to say this is what I'm going to charge, right? But then you still have to get the power to you. So I'm promising you 20 hours of power. We know that the Gencos are distributing, or they're generating the power. You, the distribution companies, you say I'm going to the TCN, the transmission company in the middle, which is what I understand was the cause of this current grid collapse that happened. Yeah. You can't make promises when you haven't made sure that there is certainty across the entire end-to-end process and this ecosystem, exactly. So, and in this heat right now.
I think that's just it, the heat. The heat is just, it makes it so unbearable, and you don't even when you have a generator, you don't even want to put it on. Because the noise, the heat, everybody's just so angry, so, you know, we have zero tolerance, because really, this heat, personally, is putting my head in.
No, it really is. I literally, yesterday I had to beg someone. She wasn't coming to my house. She went to a friend's house just round the corner, and I said, she's at your house, please tell her to come to me. She said, Madam, it's too hot. She said, me and my baby inside the sun. I said, okay, just walk to my gate. I'll pick you from the gate. But I mean, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, but we actually witnessed, you know, a downpour yesterday, last night.
Welcome.
I slept over and I woke up to the biggest surprise. Like, oh, it rained. It really did rain. Anyways, we hope that we experience more of the downpour, and that comes with its own wahala, so you know the.
I was just going to say that the Lagos State government promised us rain from April all the way through to December.
Yeah,
so I mean, the rain came on time. I think they said April 4th, and it started raining April 4th. So I think they have the predictions right, but we'd definitely like to see a lot more rain. Definitely for sure. I'm looking forward to today's topic. I think it's a very, very important one, and it's not one that we talk about enough, or is talked about enough. So I'm glad that we get the opportunity to talk about it today. So here's what we found as today's quote. The number one problem in today's generation and economy is the lack of financial literacy, and that's by Alan Greenspan. When I saw this topic, I was really excited, because I think we spend so much time talking about financial inclusion in this part of the world. And financial literacy is a huge part of that, right? I think it was a few months ago now, don't quote me, I got to host the launch of the Access to Finance survey report by Athena. And one of the ladies that I met, in fact, I believe she's been a guest on the show a couple of times. She's the CEO of Kudi Matters. And she said, I mean, it's great that we're focused on financial inclusion. It's great that we're tracking our performance against financial inclusion. But the truth of it is, nobody's talking financial literacy.
Absolutely.
And as much as you keep building solutions, you keep enhancing that value chain, if the customer on the other end of it or the consumer on the other end of it doesn't know how to leverage these things. It's almost like you're pouring water into a basket. And she was talking about having done programs with youth corps members and still not getting that traction. So it feels like it's an uneven seesaw balance, right? With everybody focused on financial inclusion, but not so much on financial literacy.
Completely agree. I mean, financial literacy is a global problem. I mean, it's not something that's peculiar to Nigeria. And all over the world, we have statistics, you know, around the fact that number one issue is people actually have problems with money. In fact, it has been seen that money is the root for a lot of things, mental issues and all that. And like you rightly said, it's almost like we're putting the horse before we're putting the cart before the horse. You know, we're so focused on inclusion, we've forgotten financial literacy. And at the heart of financial literacy, people need to understand the principles around financial literacy to be able to even enjoy or even understand what financial inclusion is all about. You know?
So I think before you jump in, Mercy, let's not get kicked off. We're enjoying the conversation so much, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But before we take a quick break, I mean, with a growing population of over 200 million people, Nigeria stands at a pivotal juncture where the empowerment of its citizens through financial literacy can catalyze transformative change. Financial literacy, often overlooked but undeniably powerful, holds the key to breaking the chains of poverty and fostering sustainable economic growth. It's our Ladies' Night Out, and Adiola, Mercy and I are here to discuss the topic, how financial literacy impacts the eradication of poverty. And when we open our phone lines, we'll love to hear what you have to say. But first, let's take a quick break to see what we found in the news. Please stay with us. You're still watching Ways. April 16th is World Leisure Day, initiated by the World Leisure Organization, which strengthens the idea that leisure is as important as work, and more than that, a social right. Defined as the use of free time for enjoyment, leisure is crucial to human development, personal growth, and the promotion of health, as well as well-being. If ever there was a day to send a message to your boss, or perhaps the HR in your company, to say, you know what, who cares that we had 3 public holidays last week? This one, this is the day for Netflix and chill.
You know how some people actually started saying, how did we even arrive at the fact that we literally need to work 5 days in a week? Like, who came up with that concept? Because you can't be working Monday, Tuesday, you know, up until Friday. And some people run that till, you know, Saturday, depending on the kind of service or office that you work for. But it's very important because making out time to rest is very, very critical to our health. And we have seen a lot of persons. Recently, I lost a very close friend. And that's because, you know, we need to get to a point where we know how to manage our stress, you know, manage our worries, manage our time, look for time to rest. Especially for a city as Lagos, we know that the pressure is very high. The bills are there to be paid. It's a very, very expensive city, and you need to catch up. And so everybody's just working. But hey, I feel that it's important that we're talking about this today, and that everyone should understand the need to create our time, you know, because it's only the living that can enjoy life, right?
Absolutely. So, you couldn't have said that better, in fact. And there's a lot of life to be chopped, starting with small chops.
I like the rhymes.
You know?
Life to be chopped,
Yeah, absolutely important day. So I'm glad. I keep saying it on this show that there's a day for everything, but today is one that we're really excited about. So I think I will start from Diola. What did you find for us in the news today?
Okay, so this one is interesting for me, and well, I'm going to be following it, you know. It says Trump's landmark criminal trial begins in New York. And, I mean, so this is about, I mean, it's been a long time coming, you know.
1,000,001 cases that the man is, his case here, case in one state, one country, one... Oh,
and I think this is very unprecedented, you know, as an ex-president, you know, having to come to trial. So this 77-year-old man is accused of falsifying business records in a scheme to cover up an alleged extramarital sexual... I mean, it's just unending, you know. But, I mean, we're here for the show. We're here to follow it up and, you know, analyze. And I mean, this is coming very close to the elections in November.
Yeah.
So this is interesting in all sorts of ways because we don't know what the verdict will be. We don't know what's going to come out of it. We don't know how it will end. If he will have to step down as, you know, some...
But you know, you know why I particularly like this story? For a couple of reasons. I mean, I was watching it this morning, and I mean, Trump is being Trump. Even with a gag order, he's still talking about it. He's still addressing the press. 500 potential jurors for them to select from, and people are already excusing themselves. Please, I cannot be biased. I can't be unbiased. I'm going to be biased. Can you just release me? But I think that what I find interesting for me is the sort of somewhat parallel that it runs with Nigeria, because of course we know all social media, our president, all the issues in the run-up to the election about his past and all. So I see this now and I say, okay, here is the big old US of A that now the Odogu, thank you, that now has this case that is running, right? And it's not, like you said, it's not one, it's not two. He's got civil cases, he's got, I think this is the first actual criminal case, right? But I mean, it is so salacious to say this is a hush money payment. The lady herself cannot even wait to come and testify. Like, when you compare it, I'm just like, and the worst, no, I wouldn't say the worst part of it, when I say the most peculiar part of it, is that it's drumming up even more support for him. He's still leading in the polls. We didn't live through it. We were like, no, he's bad. How can they call a criminal? He's happening in life and in living.
No, see, but one of the things that you mentioned, and for me, what's interesting is the fact that you find out that you have a system that's working. You have a system that's functional. And this system was not, you know, it didn't fall from heaven. It's a system that you have people working, and that's why you can find an ex-president. That's why, like you said, is unprecedented, you know, having to go through trials and what have you, because they have a strong system that does not respect strong people. And that's not the case for us in Nigeria. We unfortunately seem to have, you know, weak system with strong men, and that's why it's difficult for us to have all the kind of results that, how many times have you seen, you know, even governors, former governors, you know, standing trial? A couple of them once in a while. Yeah, but, you know, nothing that magnitude.
America has a lot
They've had a lot of practice.
But you know, that's always the excuse we keep giving ourselves about saying, hey, you know, we're still teaching, we're getting there. But we can't continue like this. I feel that at this point in time, although we say we're a nascent democracy, although we say we're growing as a country, I feel that it's time for us to begin to look at some of these countries and see what's working for them and begin to say, okay, rather than going through the same mistakes that they make, because people always say, oh, America went through a lot of mistakes, but why don't we leverage on, you know, these mistakes and then, you know, just go ahead of them. Not necessarily ahead, that's not what I'm saying.
Let's watch this space. What did you find first in the news, Mercy?
Well, I found this very interesting statement that was made by the Minister of Finance, Wale Odun, I hope I got the name correctly, where he said that Nigerians are now saving in dollars. I know you can relate with that somewhat, dollars, because they have lost faith in the Nigerians' currency, that's the Naira. And he also mentioned the fact that the recent appreciation of the Naira value demonstrate that Nigerians' effort to strengthening the currency is actually interesting and is bearing a lot of benefits. We've seen how, you know, the Naira is still, you know, trying to gain a lot against the dollar and what have you. But to also, he mentioned a lot of fact that the focus will not be on, you know, diaspora funds and what have you. But I think that this is time where, you know, we're trying to move this country forward. All hands should be on deck. And this is a time where the drivers of this economy should begin to ask the right questions. If you say that Nigerians are losing faith in the currency or the Naira, then why is that happening? Why are we losing faith? If we can answer that question, then we get to the next. So what can we now do? And how do we do it? So these are some of the questions that we need to ask. But of course, it's not far-fetched. We already know what the answer is. We already know what the challenges are. First of all, you want to talk about, you know, the fact that you need to close the gap between, you know, inflation. So for instance, as I talk about the US inflation rate is at 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, for 2024.
If we
and you're looking at Nigeria, 3 point, come on, and we're talking about 33 point something at this point in time. So, but it's already been established that if you have this, you know, two countries, one that has, you know, a higher inflation rate, you know, the value of the Naira or the value of their currency would always drop, and the one that has a higher. So it's just, they're just simple, basic things. For instance, we're hoping that we as a people begin to look inwards. There are some things we have no business importing.
No. This is a whole other
you get right.
that topic for a whole other show.
No, I'm just citing an example.
Yeah.
We have no business importing some stuffs.
Yeah.
For instance, we should be sufficient enough to produce some things, especially those things that we're consuming as a people. Let's talk about food. What business do we even have importing like chicken, poultry,
But
all
you
of
are
that?
200 million people with all the attendant issues. It's not that we don't have the arable land. Let's not talk about the security issues. Let's not talk about the value chain issues. Let's talk. I mean, there is a lot. That's why I said
it's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But you see.
But
we can start
points.
we can start from somewhere, and I'm thinking that it's not impossible to sit back, especially at this time where there's a lot of war, especially on the other side of the divide. We can sit back and fix this, this country. I'm
there's a lot of opportunities. Is where I will leave it at. I mean, my own headline sort of speaks for itself. It's again an update on another very sad story. This is a few years down the line, headline about Sylvester Oromoni. That's the young man who unfortunately lost his life after so many things that happened in his school, from being bullied to being allegedly poisoned to, having enlarged liver. But yeah, so the headline really speaks about the coroner now clearing the school during college and indicting the parents and the doctors. I mean, reading the comments on this yesterday was really, for me, sad, because the way, as much as I always want to keep a positive outlook about Nigeria, there's certain things that happen that just make you sad. And this is one of those things. There's so many things wrong with this entire process, from the school to this young man finding himself in this situation where he was fighting for his life, to clear the students, to clear the school, and place the blame solely on the parents and the doctors. I mean, it just beggars belief. That's what I will say. But may his soul continue to rest in peace. I know that his father has said that they will continue fighting for justice, and I really hope that they do find it. But this is certainly not the outcome that we were expecting to get. But we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll jump right into the conversation.
Members of our House of Assembly or the National Assembly, who you have said are supposedly our representatives, who are supposed to be representing our interests, making laws that will be executed by the executive. These same people who you are saying that need to help us are people who have been helping themselves in the past. These are people who have only made laws that only hold us accountable and not necessarily them. Again, in the recent past, we've seen them fight for cars and monies and sitting allowances that are much more higher than the amount of money that a university professor takes home as his pay. And most of these professors still haven't received their pay. Who's to say that these same people that you're talking about accountability on their past will cut off their nose to spite their face?
So financial literacy equips individuals with the essential skills and knowledge needed to make informed financial decisions. In a country where access to formal banking services remains limited for many, understanding basic financial concepts such as budgeting, saving, and investing becomes paramount. By empowering individuals with the ability to manage their finances effectively, financial literacy helps them escape the cycle of debt and build a foundation for a more stable future. So tonight we're asking, how can financial literacy impact the eradication of poverty in Nigeria? Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation and send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. So, financial literacy. I want to kick off by asking, what's your first memory of learning about money?
Okay. Do you want to go first?
No, I don't want to go first.
So, my mom is a finance person.
Aha, you had Expo.
Exactly. She was my primary, financial influencer, more like. And right from when I was very young, she's very big on budgeting. She's very big on conversations around money. And I remember that I used to do chores, and so the first thing really was she sat me down to discuss needs and wants.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. So right from when I was very young, I knew what was important and what was okay. I mean, if you want this, you have to work to have it, or you have to be good to have, it was more like that. And she was very big on the fact that money is not just there for you to just spend. You have to understand the value of money. You have to, like that. And it was she would give me targets, myself and my siblings, and she would say, oh, I would match up this, with my dad as well, I will match up this, if you can save up this, okay, what did you do with money? And it wasn't more like, okay, she was saying, don't spend your money on this. It was more about the fact that, do you understand what you're spending money on? So yes, I would say that I was very lucky to have been exposed to financial literacy right from when I was very young.
So you had the gold standard. So
yeah.
let me come to Mercy.
Well, my case was not the same as hers because I wasn't very privileged, to grow in that kind of environment where you probably have both parents and all of that putting you through all of, money issues. But I think I remember when I used to get allowances. So I used to get like a 100 naira, my allowance back then. I was still in nursery school, so it was a lot of money. So they would give me 100 naira every other time for my allowance. I think it comes like monthly or something like that. And then, but somehow, I really don't know, maybe because of my interaction with people around and my immediate environment, I started learning how to save my money. So most times when my grandmother used to have to report me to my uncle to say, hey, all the money you give to her, she uses it in buying books. I don't spend my pocket money on the things that people will spend their pocket money on. So I'd save them. I'll get myself, if you get me a sandal I don't like, I'll save them and get another one that I like. So for me, that's how I started learning about money. But I think that it probably would have just been within the kind of interactions that I had, the people that I met, my immediate environment, that so I knew how to save for things. I would always use my money to buy what I need for school. So you see me buying my sandal, the very lovely one, buy my textbook. Peradventure, I don't have all of the textbooks. I buy an umbrella and all of this kind of stuff. So yes, that's how I learned about, money and maybe
Awesome.
saving.
So you were very organized. So I like that we are three different, I don't want to say three different extremes, but three very different experiences, which I think surmounts most people. So my first experience of money was kolo. So the idea and concept of saving was really, for me, it was towards Christmas. So you would have this, and any money that you get given, my mom would make this big show of putting it into my little kolo. And so that was it. And then Christmas, there was the excitement towards the end of the year of opening it and then seeing how much money it was. But that was pretty much it, because I kept trying to think, did someone sit me down to teach me about money? Then I remember, there was a time where at one point my mom had a side hustle where she used to make plantain chips. So I remember the conversation around buying and selling, but again, more from the perspective of the product than actually teaching me about money. And I realized that when I look at my attitude towards money today, it really comes from, over time, like you said, Mercy, I've learned the hard way. But when I look back and I see people that fall into Diola's segment of people that had the training, right? I look at people who, in fact, when I assess it, I've seen people in different cadres. I had a friend who, from very early on, she started to buy land. My own family's was the house we live in. We just own, do you get what I mean? That was the focus. But she had a mom who was always buying land, So very early on, she started buying land. So when we were still buying bag, shoe, she was buying land. So today she has properties in the Lekki axis. And I'm like, but we are age mates, you know. Her foundation was different. The same thing, I remember reading an article very many years ago about a 26-year-old lady. This was in the UK. But at the age of 26, she had invested in vineyards. She had investments. In fact, her story is my first memory of investments, of thinking, how can a 26-year-old be this rich to own a significant portion of a vineyard? Again, when you read her story, she was talking about how her father taught her about investing, and in fact, that was when I went and read The Richest Man in Babylon and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, we all went through those stages, right? So, and I think that when I was growing up, financial literacy wasn't a thing. I think probably the first time I heard about financial literacy, maybe about 15 years ago. And it quickly became a thing. Then you saw people, and I think with the advent of social media, people teaching budgeting, saving, what's it called, plan, and all of that. But the reality of it is that if I bring it home to Nigeria, a lot of people had no formal training around money. Yeah. When we talk about, as focused as we are on money, which is what I think is like the irony of it, right? As focused as we are on money, we don't actually have that kind of teaching and training. Even today, when there is an awareness, we still are not teaching young children, for example, about money. It's not part of our school curriculum, right? So these gaps, even though there is now an awareness of, and I think even that financial inclusion side, I think that's really being driven by the banking sector. Yeah. Because if you build it, they must come. So if I'm investing money, I want to make money. That's really sort of the driver of financial inclusion, and then the regulator has gotten behind that, understanding that driving financial inclusion drives the economy. So in setting the scene in that way, we can sort of see that there's a tie between, I think financial inclusion is even in the middle. Where it should start is financial literacy, right? And the gaps that are there to then being able to impact the economy, to impact, you know, our GDP, talking about, like you said, the things we shouldn't be importing. All of these things are all part of the same ecosystem. They're all part of the same problem. So we say there are 200 million people plus in Nigeria today. That's a huge population of people, right? When we think about then even wanting to bring it down, a larger percentage of those people are living below the poverty line, sadly, right? So when we talk about, this is us who, if you want to use Nigerian terms, they will say we're the elites. That's what was going everywhere during election. We were the elite, right? If we, the so-called elite, are struggling with financial literacy, with understanding how to make our money work for us, then where does that leave a larger percentage of the population who now, I remember the day we were talking about wellness and well-being. One of our usual callers, Lomans, called in and said, Akpu is cheaper. To eat carrots, but it's more expensive. So in the face of that reality, where people don't even have enough to get through today, how does financial literacy now get into that conversation?
You know, okay. Do you want to come in?
Okay. So because I work in this space, right, I know that a whole lot around financial literacy is that there is a cultural motive around it. We don't talk about money. Somehow, it's like a taboo. Yes, we're so very money conscious, but we don't actually have a conversation around money. Yoruba people would say, when you want to start talking about, you know, money, so pardon me when I use this in Yoruba, they'll say, Baba mi soro, like, are you trying to put your eyes inside my money?
Talk to me about money. What's your business?
Exactly. So then the focus has always been around making money.
Absolutely.
But you see, financial literacy is so much beyond making money. Everybody understands about making money. But even making money, it's very strategic. You are at an age, okay, this is the kind of risk you should be exposed to. But the main issue is understanding management, multiplication, and then protection of that money. And that's why we have seen that wealth in Nigeria is not sustainable.
Yeah.
We will keep having poverty.
Gaps in generational wealth.
It's standard. And the interesting thing is the Nigerian government through CBN actually has a framework, a financial literacy framework, and they've been doing a bit, trying to talk to people, trying to do a campaign around financial literacy and all that, take it into schools. But again, there are those gaps, you're talking money to someone who doesn't even understand the concept of money. You're not speaking to them in a language that they would understand. I'll give you an example. One of the demography that we service, within my organization is people, the underserved, people at the very low end and all that. And a while ago, while I was training, we're talking about money, and I wanted to understand their model of how a person could actually be selling apples for 15 years. I mean, you talk to some of them and they tell you, I've been selling apples for 15 years. And I'm asking myself, you're still on the streets. What are you doing? But it then occurred to me that they have zero concept about money. They do not understand the difference between profit and revenue. They don't. For them, it is, okay, I take 100,000 to the market, I buy whatever, and I make 5,000. That's enough. You understand? So as long as they don't understand that, they don't understand the fact that, okay, I have to factor in my cost of logistics, my stall, my this, my that, and all that, there is no wealth to be had anywhere.
Grow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think before we come in, Mercy, I think we'll just take a quick break and then we'll come right back. So if you just tuned in, it's our Ladies' Night Out, and we're discussing how financial literacy impacts the eradication of poverty in Nigeria. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. We will also now open our phone lines, and you can reach us on 0702 500 7749. Please remember to turn down the volume of your TV set so we can have a great conversation. So, Mercy, you're about to jump in.
Yes, I was about to jump in from, the angle that, yes, as much as I would say that we've not sort of have any kind of formal training whatsoever, and like you mentioned, it's not just applicable to Nigeria. I mean, I was reading an article and I found out that you have other countries whose population are also suffering the same and all of that. But as it is, I would also want to say that as much as that hasn't been very formal, you still find out that some people somehow understand it without the terms. So for instance, people still get to budget without understanding that what they're doing is part of, financial literacy, one of the pillars of it, budgeting, they save and all of that. You still have people who might not really understand, the concept, the terminology, the word is the terminology now in this case, but are practicing it.
Yeah.
Maybe by virtue of association or whatever it is, or information, not necessary. But I do understand, and I started asking myself, what's that? I think that this is a time where, we should, as a people, improve on our curriculum. I also think that there's a lot of issues wrong with our curriculum as a country, because we've been more concerned about, formal education, the conventional universities, and so everybody just wants to have a degree, but nobody's talking about vocational, training and all of that, because I also think that something is missing outside of the entire pillars. People should be taught how to make money, because if you don't have money, how do you know how to save, spend, budget, and invest? You get my point.
Yeah.
So I think that, learning how to make money. But then again, it just reminds me of, some of the teachings that I had sometime. It was surprised as a church, where we were taught about money. There's a whole series on money for a month, and it was really eye-opening, because the way you manage 10 naira is the same way you would, the behavior you have towards 10 naira is the same behavior you have towards 10 million. So if you're wasteful with 10 naira, that's how you're going to be. There's no difference. But we're hoping that, with this conversation, little by little, we can actually get,
yeah. I mean, I love that you came from that angle, because it ties very, very nicely into the second half about eradicating poverty. When Diola was talking, I love the example that you gave about the person selling apples for 15 years. Surprisingly, if you ask that person, they probably have 4 children.
Yeah.
And they've probably managed to put their 4 children through school. Some of them even to university. So the point that you raised was very clear, in that even though financial literacy as a term, as a concept, may not be documented and formalized, it exists in some construct in the informal sector. And if I use my own example about Kolo, if we take the, what is it called now? The Ajo, what is it called in Igbo?
Susu.
Susu, thank you. It exists in different languages because as a concept, that was a way of saving. Right? Small, small, small every day. And they're able to grow their monies. So you see that even when we talk about this gap, we have our own informal ways. Because I think that sometimes we're guilty of taking foreign problems and coming and laying it over and just thinking that we're completely rubbish. When in fact, we've had our own systems.
Exactly.
And when we talk about the eradication of poverty, we find that we now want to, in fact, when I saw this eradication of poverty, I was like, first of all of us are getting poorer. The Christians enough to say, we're not poor in Jesus' name. We're rich. But the truth of it is, there's a reason why they are saving in dollar, because if they leave it in naira, they're getting poorer every day.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the eradication of poverty, right, if we take it to the very base level, there is a need for information dissemination.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be, and when you talked about the framework, right, the framework is big English.
Yeah.
But the channels by which we disseminate information to a large number of people, and, we are just giving different nuggets of it. If I believe today that I don't need to pay attention to learning money because I only have 10 naira, the day they give you 10 million, you fritter it away. So, in fact, there was a training session I went on, and Pastor Itwa was one of our trainers, and he gave a story of, I think he was he was like one of those area kind of boys that ended up being in the church, coming to sleep in the church, and how one day, I think in his interaction, somebody said, I met somebody, I want to sell scrap metal, and he's going to make money. Somehow, I think he mentioned a top businessman, and Pastor Ita was able to, together, they were able to make the deal happen, and the guy made 2 million naira. And he narrated how he said, let's take the 2 million, let's help you save it. This 2 million naira should be able to keep you going for a long time. This person took that money. Oh, no, he has a plan, he knows what to do. The next minute, the wife that he had been living with for how many years from the part of the country when they allow you to take the wife, then come back later to marry. He went back and married the wife, spent the money doing wedding. Then after wedding, you are back to the status quo. So if you are not faithful in the little, when you have, exactly. So these are where, for me, the gaps lie, in that in sensitizing people about financial literacy, we first of all need to come away from this mindset of, I don't need it because I don't have. I need to teach you that the day you have 1 naira, how do you turn 1 into 5? How do you turn 5 into 10? Because the minute each and every one of us is empowered to use the little we have to create more, the ripple effects, when we start talking about the impact of small businesses, why? It's because it's not the corporates that are going to save the country. It's not their income that's going to save the GDP. It's our collective input. So when we talk about the eradication of poverty, because in fact in my mind I was like, when we open the phone lines, please don't come and tell us we don't have money, so it's not important. It's important that the message that we pass today is that you must learn, you must empower yourself. People start businesses with 20,000 naira selling apples or sugar or something. And they're able to build if they have the right foundations of understanding business, of understanding money. So before we get to the point of saying, oh, government, put it in our curriculum, which, yes, we need to do, because we need to now that we understand the problem, we need to scope it out across all demographics and segments of people. So we need to be teaching the market women. We need to be empowering them. We need to be empowering the illiterate, the uneducated. Even the beggars that are begging for money.
You need to empower
You need to empower the educated.
You know, because I think that because of the gap that has been created, so it's becoming a problem, or it's become a problem now that you feel like you already have grown-ups who don't know how to manage resources, or who don't understand or don't have a grasp about money, or what they should do with money and all of that.
Beyond
so therefore,
it.
Beyond spending it and what have you. Because even some people, you find out that I'll cite examples. I'm going to cite some examples where people actually just, for instance, you don't, I see people trying to go borrow monies to throw a party. Like, and I'm like, why do you do that? That is not wise. You don't even need somebody from Harvard to come tell you that. Why do you borrow monies you don't have to throw a party? Why? I see people, couples go to say, oh, I'm having a child dedication. You go and borrow money. Money you don't have to do a child dedication. What are you doing? You're borrowing money to call people to come and party. So you are now in debt. For what exactly?
They go home and then you're left
borrow
with
money, you know, to go and buy. I don't understand. So these are some of the, you know, because we're talking about this now, some people can probably think that maybe we're talking about something very abstract. We're not talking about abstract. We're saying that's not it. That's not it. This is what we're saying. You can't be borrowing money. You don't have money. You're borrowing money, or probably you have a job, and then you're not taking your job. That's where your income comes in. And then you're saying, oh, you want to go spend all your time in church. The time for work is time for work, but you're not giving time, you know, that time to work. You're rather taking and say, oh, can you excuse me? I need to be, you know, in a service. And even God himself understands that you need to work, you know, to earn a living. So these are some of the things. So when we're talking about this, I think that it's important that we bring it, you know, very practical, so that people understand some of this decision. Now you say you want something. I remember a time before I started using an iPhone. It's not, you know how it is. We're very elitist, you know, in Nigeria. Everybody, if you're not using a certain brand, everybody begins to think that you're crazy. So then I used to have, you know, colleagues who used to think that, oh, no, come on, we're going for events, you need to have an iPhone. I'm like, crazy, I don't need it. Because I eventually got it because I had need for it. I discovered that it was economical for me. When I did my own understanding, I discovered that, okay, it was economical to fix and what have you. I think that it could help with my work research and all of that. That's why. So you don't need to start getting, I'm sure that we hear that a lot, that people buy things they don't need. You understand?
Versus wants. See the person that learns it.
You just buy things because you want to buy them. You need to, and that's why in economics, I think we all went through elementary economics where we're told, you know, they call it scale of preference. You have to prioritize what's important. So for instance, if you give me 20,000 naira, let me call 20 million, let me call 20. For eventually 20 million comes into my account, you know, I should begin to say, okay, what is the most important thing to do? You understand? You begin to prioritize what's important. Is it important to go and throw a party when you have school fees to pay, or you could invest into a business? These are the things that we're talking about.
In that space, what I find interesting is the people that don't understand that things like cars are depreciating assets. I want to be seen in this car.
I know, right?
No, but you know that this society promotes extravagance. Yeah. It does, you know. So you have to be smart. You have to define your own financial goals, and then be consistent. It's a lot of hard work. People don't know. And then some people, I mean, I've had conversations with people where we're talking financial literacy, and they go like, okay, but you know, I'm already saving, I'm already budgeting, I'm already doing this and all that. But you see, part of, now this, I want to just quickly touch on this. Part of financial literacy is also understanding that you can be very susceptible to scams and frauds. In trying to make money, right? Again, because we're focused on making money, you are putting your resources, your financial resources at risk. Now, for some people, they have the skill, they have the knowledge to be able to navigate that kind of complexity. But there are certain things to look at. Your earning capacity, your age, so many things. I mean, at 60, you shouldn't be gambling with your money. If you are not at that very, top
you have
level,
the money that you can afford to spare and lose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if what you have is what you have amassed or saved over time through blood and sweat, and then you think, oh, there's this deal, you don't know so much about it, but just because someone said, oh, look at this, that's part of financial literacy. And a whole lot of people, in fact, I was reading a report around the number of Nigerians affected and how much money was sunk into all these scam, MMM.
Of course.
Billions.
Yeah,
Billions you can't recover.
I'm not going to say anything, but I would say it in a very coded way, because at some point in time, I think that was like 2021 or 2022, I was part of the team that was managing crisis for a certain, company that was, rendering some of these services. And, so one of the things I found out, now, working for that company just made me understand that Nigeria had money.
Yep.
There is a lot of money in this country.
A lot of money and not enough education and wisdom.
Yes. So a lot of people have so much money. That's when I knew there was money. There's money in Lagos. There's money in Nigeria. Please. Now, another thing I also found out that is that, because you mentioned some of these things, is that we don't have that, and to be very honest, we don't understand, the principle of money. We don't have the grasp. We don't understand the dynamics, and so sometimes we see some of these businesses, and then we just throw in money. If you know how much people chunked in, the amount of money, and I sit back and I say, this is greed, because even if you don't know or you don't understand some of this, dynamics surrounding money and investment, that's why you have people you can actually consult. Absolutely. If you have, let's say, 20 million to invest, I probably think that you should be able to pay a consultant or consult someone before you invest. But I feel that we're just so greedy, as the people, that you just see some kind of return on investment.
I think that there's greed and there's also ignorance.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people get taken advantage of. People particularly will trust family members, or they will trust people that they know. But I agree with you, greed is a great driver. And sometimes I don't even think it's greed. I think because our culture is so ingrained now in that extravagance and that being seen and being focused on making money, that we haven't been able to distill properly what the right way to make money is. How should I grow my money over time? One of the first things Yola said was about your age and the risk you're willing to take. If you ask the average Nigerian worker, payment into pension fund is a necessary evil. Give me the money now.
Now.
You get what I mean?
Because I have.
Yes. But in countries where these things are ingrained, in that you understand that, look, the earlier you start saving, in Nigeria, the real pension plan is your children.
Yeah.
That's why, to a certain extent, if you don't have children, because I always ask people, the way we chase children in Nigeria, are they using them to collect money somewhere? Somebody said, yes, now that's pension plan. I say, oh, actually, you are very correct. So the reality of it is, the places where we should place our focus, because we all agree that it affects every cadre of Nigeria. You have the money. You're not even investing it properly. How many people, we all think that wealth managers are for the uber rich. But the truth is, if you have 5 million today, find the best person that can help you sweat that 5 million with the least amount of risk. And that way, you're able to protect that money and grow it in a smart way. So there's so many ways to unpack this conversation, and I almost feel like we want to do a teaching series on financial literacy. But as we quickly run out of time, as we always do when the conversation is great, right? The things that we've said to keep the conversation real, and I love when Mercy said, let's not make it abstract. Lending is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not.
If you are lending to make money, if the return on the money that you're going to borrow exceeds the interest you are paying on the money, that's wise borrowing. So even that and understanding how to make money work for you is part of the financial literacy that we're speaking about. But if it's to flenjo, if it's to...
But that's what we're doing as a government first. Let me try.
Let's not be the government to
That's an aside. But that's horrible, and that's how we have inflation. Who does that? Sorry, we're not diverting from the conversation. Go ahead.
Because I mean, there's so many problems. Definitely agree that there's so many problems, but it's the idea. And in fact, this comment just came in, and I was just about to speak to that. Can financial literacy be taught in languages we already understand, like the Igbo apprenticeship system, for example? And I think that we've talked about Afamefuna, one of the last shows I was on. We have robust learning systems already.
Sure.
So when we say that we have these problems, how were we learning money before the West came to us?
It's the same question as saying, how did we govern our society? How did we police our communities?
Yep.
You remember that period where the pre-colonial era where I read, I mean, I didn't exist in that time, and I was told that, you know, we had age grades, people, community, young men who protected the, you know, the communities. And, you know, there were, how did we govern ourselves?
Yeah.
How did we go about these things before we became an entity called Nigeria, before the amalgamation? Because we existed, even though we were not together, but we existed in different, you know, parts and units. And so how did our forefathers do this? And it brings us back to the conversation where a lot of people have been suggesting that as Africans, as Nigerians, we need to begin to look for the system, the things that work for us. Because we already have, you know, we already have a system before this time. And so maybe it's time for us to begin to, you know, just look for our own way and run our society, because our society is very peculiar.
And I think that we all have a responsibility, really, to try to teach people the little that we know. Because I think we've all experienced somebody asking us for urgent 2K or 50K, 100K, I want to start a business. And you give them that money, and then, you know, nothing materializes. They come back again, maybe 6 months to a year, and the same sing-song happens again. So I think in sort of summarizing the conversation today, I think one of the first things that is important to note is, don't be fooled by the big words, financial literacy. What we're simply saying is, please learn about money. Learn how to make money. Understand how money works. Understand the principles of money. I love when you were talking about the series in church. The principles are principles. Whether you now add the faith-based elements to it, but some of the richest people in the world, in fact, most of the richest people in the world, they will not be, they are not Christians, and they're not affiliated.
Do you know the funny thing is, when, just to make an impression, it wasn't, I didn't attend a church where, you know, they were saying, oh, you're going to make money. As a matter of fact, I was told that you have no business making money if you're not rendering services, if you're not selling products. I mean, this is a real conversation. You have no business saying you have money. So at the time, I think I was still in school, and someone was saying, why don't you have money? I said, because I don't have any business.
I don't have a business, I don't have a job, so
why should I have money?
So the right foundations around money, you're absolutely right. Understanding how debt works, understanding how savings works, understanding how investment works, even if you don't have the money. Planning for your financial future. You hear the concept of people saying, I want to be financially free by the time I'm 40, I'm 50, and you see people, you know, achieving it. So I hope that, and I know definitely our goal and mission here on Ways is to educate our viewers. So definitely this is a topic that will keep circling back around and around and around, so that our viewers can understand that money is a good thing. It is the root of all evil when it is mismanaged, it is misused, but it does also a lot of good. So thank you so much, ladies. I've really enjoyed talking about this with you today. But before we go, do ensure that you follow us on Instagram at Wayshow Africa and Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our social media engagements. Remember to like, share, and comment. And, as we always say, don't watch Ways alone. Tell your friends and family all about it to watch and follow us. So if you missed today's quote, here it is again. The #1 problem in today's generation and economy is the lack of financial literacy. So we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screens. Have a good evening.